All right, we're going to wait for a couple of more minutes maybe to see if everyone is joining. We're 18, which is a very nice group. Okay, when we reach 20, I will start. I hope everybody is doing really well today and that you had the time to check the documents. We have already started to take into consideration some of the points that you made after the first module. But yeah, let me start then. So my name is Maureen Cornelis. I'm a gender and human rights specialist, and I'm a consultant for EID, the Innovation Energy Development. And I'm along with my colleague Geraldine. Geraldine, I don't know if we can see you. Maybe you can say something so we can see your face.
Yes, I put my camera on, so I hope everybody can see me. I am Geraldine. I am Director of Access to Energy at IFC. And I have been working with the ESG team as mini-grid expert, and maybe I have met some of you at EAIF in Nairobi in April. And I will be with Maureen for this session.
Absolutely. It's really great to be a tandem for this presentation, which will be about labor, community, health, safety, and indigenous people. It's really the focus on the people dimension of ESG and let's say the tools that are from 2.1 to 2.5. If you have any question, please put them in the chat. We will be using the chat quite extensively. I hope everybody can access it. Maybe we can actually run a test, right? If you're like from a scale to 1 to 5, how are you feeling today? 1 being not good, 5 being really good. Just put it in the chat and we'll see if everybody can access it. Okay, you don't have, can do it at your own pace. Great.
So it's working well.
It's working well. Perfect. Yes. And as my colleague Rin also said, please introduce yourself in the chat by mentioning your name, company, and country. Once you have answered how good or not good you are feeling. Okay, so I see that Zuhumret Katen, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, is not feeling so good today. Well, let's hope that after this training, this participant feels empowered and energized and ready to take on the challenge. All right. So about the name and the affiliation, it's whenever you have a question, just put it in the chat. Okay, you put your name, your affiliation when you want to ask a question. This way, it will be more simple, and we will not overload the chat too much. Geraldine will be following the chat. I will see it a little less. So, so please keep on asking questions. All right. And there's also our colleague Karen Nash, who's here with us. Karen, can you turn your camera on to say hi?
No, the camera's not working, but I'll say hello.
Hello, Karen.
Yes, thank you.
So, we're 3 and we will be guiding you today. All right. Please keep on saying how you feel, like from 1 to 5. That's always kind of an energizing way to start the day. Okay, so the objectives of today. So by the end of this session, you will be able to locate the 5 tools that we have prepared for you. One is on the stakeholder engagement plan. One is on gender and, taking better the gender aspect into forces. Once is GRM, it's on the grievance management, so when people have complaints. ABC, it's anti-bribery and corruption. And then there is one on forced labor, 2.5. So they will help, we will guide you through these 5 tools inside the guidebook and really link them to the performance standards and operational standards of the African Development Bank, sorry. Then these tools will really help you identify three people risk specific to mini-grids, from the dimension of consent to SEAH, so it's more related to sexual harassment and challenges. Please turn your microphone off if you're not speaking. Thank you. Also, the challenge related to retaliation, the challenges linked to indigenous population and prior formulated prior consent, FPIC, and also forced labor, including child labor, and also the entry point for each of them. Then the idea is that we will be helping you apply each tool proportionally to your project size, including what a developer without dedicated ESG staff can do lightly but consistently. And then we will help you recognize where each tool reduces business risk from, for instance, theft or conflict or financing delays, and also where it can unlock revenue from productive use to women's demand. And then we would like you to be able to commit to 2 or 3 short actions you could take in the next 30 days. How does it look like? Again, from 1 to 5, if you have if that looks okay, just put a 5, and if not, well, that's the menu for today anyway. I'm joking, of course. But okay. Oh, sorry, I wanted to see you, and then I hit you. That's it. Okay. All right. So, as you see, again, a little test for you of your baseline confidence check. The idea is to know where you stand right now. So you will be able to rate yourself from 1, not confident, to 5, very confident. Geraldine, I will ask you to report on the result because I cannot see the chat. Okay? So the first question is, how do you feel? How confident do you feel about identifying stakeholders for a mini-grid project, including women and vulnerable groups? I give you a few seconds. Rin, please.
Yeah, just someone, Dr. Faradasani, saying that they cannot hear us very well. Is it the case for everyone in the audience? Okay, so maybe it's just an issue from your side, Doctor. I'm sorry, maybe you can check your settings.
With Teams, you can add some subtitles, or I'm just adding them. Can you see them? Let me know if you can see the subtitles.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Does it help, Doctor? Yeah, does it helps? All right. Can you please let me know if there are any answers to the first question? How confident do you feel about identifying stakeholders for a mini-grid project, including women and vulnerable groups? If you want, you can answer to all of them in batch. So Q1, say you quote from 1 to 5. The second question is, how confident do you feel setting up a grievance mechanism appropriate to your project size? Again, 1 to 5. And again, you don't have to have, it's not marked, it's just for us to understand where you are standing. And to see where we also need to improve maybe our toolkits, right? The third point is about screening your supply chain for forced labor risk. How do you feel about that from 1 to 5? And then it's about deciding when indigenous people requirements apply to your project. Okay.
So you have answer level 3 for question 1.
Okay.
For some of the participants.
Okay, so it's like confident, but not that confident. All right. On grievance mechanism, do you have any perspective? Any answer? Not yet.
We have a very much experienced people for grievance mechanism with captains, Suhumrets, Foragen. And 2 to 3 for grievance mechanism.
And how about screening your supply chain for forced labor? Question 3.
There is a few 1 for this one.
Okay, okay. Okay, so we might want to insist on that aspect. And then on indigenous peoples?
Also, a few 1.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. We will be doing this kind of exercise or questions throughout the presentation today. Yeah. All right. So just if we take some kind of a macro level, if we look at the big picture, people are really the cornerstone of mini-grid sustainability. Of course, we don't build electricity infrastructures, big or small, just for the industry. We build them to serve the local populations, the people who live there. But the question is, of course, not only to serve them the way we would like them to be served, but also to listen to their own priorities. And this is a question of viability. Because if the project is not like embedding the people's perspective from the start, there is a possibility that there will be social conflicts that will then demonstrate in operations such as theft, vandalism, non-payment, or churn. Like people will not adopt the electricity and will keep on doing things their own way. The thing is, addressing this, addressing the people dimension is really an aspect of dealing with the risk, de-risking it. All right. Then the second aspect is about financing. It's really, really important for AfDB and IFC and other lenders gate to show compliance to this and paper trail that the people have been involved. They don't want a project to be very nice on paper, but then not deliver at all. So that's why it's really important to have to keep a paper trail of the actions that you are doing to make sure that everything is clean and that maybe your mini grid can become a model of the well functioning of a mini grid project. And then of course the third one is about impact, because inclusion, it drives revenue directly. Just to give you an example, the productive use load, it's built by women by women enterprises, by community ownership. So it's about really what, let's say, what makes the difference in people's lives. I see that we're welcoming a few more people. Welcome, everyone. It's really great. We are 24 today, so that's absolutely brilliant. And the first question for those who have just arrived is, how do you feel today from 1 to 5? And how confident do you feel about the people dimension of this mini-green sustainability project from 1 to 5? Okay? I'll summarize it this way. Do you agree, Geraldine?
Yes. About stakeholder engagements in your mini-grid project.
Absolutely. So let me give you examples of things that could go wrong, because maybe that will be a little clearer than only looking at the macro, at the big picture. For instance, one first situation, you organize a community consultation. You see that, you have to do it. So you do it. But you do it at the chief compound on a Wednesday afternoon. At the same time as the market, right? In a place that tends to be a little bit intimidating. The result is that 47 men attend, only 2 women show up. Oops. 6 months later, women's cooperatives complain they were never consulted on tariffs. They cannot adopt the mini-grid, the electricity from the mini-grid. They cannot use it because it's too expensive, or because the payment is too strict and when they need more flexibility. So that's a big risk. So your project, your mini-grid project, underperforms because women were never consulted properly. All right? Let's look at another example. Grievance. So a complainant, someone, calls the developer's hotline 3 times. Every time, the call routes to the technician's cousin. All right? The technician cousin doesn't know anything about the development. So he doesn't answer to the concern. The complainant stops calling, and, more and more people start calling. And then a regional NGO publishes a public letter naming the developer, saying, they are not listening to people's concern. People in that area haven't had access to proper electricity for a few weeks, and nobody is doing anything, right? That's a very big concern. Then, third example, it's on the supply chain. I could see that you had some challenges with the supply chain from the chat. So you see an enormous order made via a regional distributor. The problem is that this order doesn't disclose where the polysilicon comes from. There is one challenge here. The AfDB, the loan agreement, references EU forced labor regulation. And so the solar panel cannot be used. So money has been misused, if we want, because we cannot tie this loan to the installation of these particular solar panels. That's quite a confusing and complex and, let's say, frankly, annoying situation. All right. Each of these cases could have been preventable with the tool we are about to work through. All right? Maybe in the chat, if you want to share something that happened to you where you realize that maybe, it doesn't have to be your experience, and you can stay anonymous. You don't have to stay in which country, etc. But you can say when something didn't work because of this kind of challenges. You can say it in the chat if you want. All right? And Geraldine, if you see that they are interesting case study, please share them. All right.
Or you can share also, even if nothing went wrong, but if you apply some specific tools regarding that, and you see that it makes the difference, then you can share it also. It's useful for everybody.
Oh, maybe in this specific case, you want to share something, Geraldine, about the gender tool.
Yes, I can, because IAD is an engineering firm, but also we are a mini-grid developer, and we have a project in Madagascar. And yes, we were a bit at a loss when it came to gender issue. We didn't know how to address this. And yes, we have just received now our tariff approval from the regulator, and we are now about to launch meetings in the villages to explain the tariffs that were approved and to explain the schedule for the works, how to apply for a meter, etc., etc. And we found in the gender tool developed by Marine a lot of simple ideas, easy to apply. We like, for example, identifying one or two women who serve as leaders in the community, discussing with them how to set the dates, the times, the locations for the meetings, so that we are sure that the women can participate and give their feedback and ask for their questions. So that's the first step, but it was an important step.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Geraldine. So you see, sometimes you don't know where to go and how to start, and you know that you need to make an extra step, but you don't exactly know how. And really, these toolkits are really to help you address this very wide variety of potential or real concerns. All right. We are so many. I'm really happy about that. Great. All right. So in 30 seconds, you have about five different, you have five different tools. Number 2.1, which is about stakeholder engagement plan, including gender. And following also your feedback, we have decided to expand a little bit on Indigenous people as well. So the version you consulted ahead of this meeting has already evolved a little bit to involve to include some consideration related to Indigenous people. Then you have the gender action plan, which is more cross-cutting, 2.3. Then the 2.2 is the grievance redress mechanism. 2.4 is anti-bribery and anti-corruption. And then 2.5 is about forced labor and child labor. They go from broadest, engaging everyone, to most specific, such as the angle of the supply chain. All right? So if we get into the stakeholder engagement, as I told you, it has now changed a little in terms of layout, in terms of content, but the main lines are the same. The idea is really to have a proper understanding on how to involve women as customers and community members, because it achieves higher connection rates, stronger payment discipline, and more durable social license. So people embrace the project, people keep on using it. And the idea of the 2.1 is to guide you through that process, and when and where Indigenous peoples are present, through the additional consultation and consent obligation for their presence. That's important to keep in mind that, however, the Indigenous peoples trigger a different category. So in theory, when you remember you are category C, like the one that is a bit more generic, when and with no specific risk, usually you should not have you should have screened for Indigenous people, and when they are around, you must have like proper processes in place. All right. So let's say 2.1 doesn't replace having specific people to help you deal with the ingenious people who are present on site. All right. So in a nutshell, it covers the identification of stakeholders, public, private, community, men, women, etc., their mapping, the way you engage them, also through a gender lens, and also try to monitor the quality of their engagement. Because as you know, it's not only about having them and ticking a box. Yeah, we have women, we tick a box. No, it's not only about that. It's how women report, how women engage, are they being listened to, or we will see that in 2.3. But the idea is really to know that women are there and they may have different needs. So there are, let's say, 4 main steps that you can use. If you do nothing else, the first is to complete the stakeholder mapping table, the section 5, because it identifies women's group and female-headed households by name. Sometimes it's not explicit that it's a female-headed household, but you will notice asking people around if, for instance, the husband or the partner is working far away most of the time, and if in practice it's a woman who takes the decision for the home. All right? So it's important to really take the time to understand not what they will report or what the townhouse or the community will report, but also how people live in practice. All right. Then it's about the budget estimation, because if you don't have a budget, you don't have a focus. All right. So it's really important to have this clarity on the fact that every line needs budgeting. Then it's really important to hold at least one women-only focus group discussion before construction begins. Why? It's because in many communities, women will feel freer when they are surrounded by other women. And it's perfectly fine. You need the conditions, your job is to create the conditions for women to feel safe, to express themselves. You must probably ask a female colleague to hold this workshop or focus group, all right? But it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Trust the women. They know what their priorities are, and where they need. They also need, let's say, their perspective to be listened to. And sometimes, it's great when you have the possibility to ask them maybe one by one, because at the end of a focus group, you will have someone who has not been saying anything, but you could read their face and read that, they wanted to say something, but they didn't feel legitimate. Holding this kind of women-only focus group really helps overcoming this kind of barrier. All right? And then the fourth point, and it's absolutely fundamental, is to designate a female contact point for the grievances that are related to sexual harassment. All right? No one, of course, wants sexual harassment to happen, but it's by being completely open about the fact that it may happen that you manage to really consolidate the community around this concern and make women feel safe at all levels. All right? The 2.1 is relatively long, but it's very practical. So you can complete the first 2 steps in half a day. All right? Of course, women-only focus group discussion, they may take a little bit more time, but in practice, they will be extremely, extremely valuable. So it's exactly what you were confirming and talking about, Geraldine, right? You're mute, my dear.
Sure. I agree.
All right. So here it's very small, but I think we can zoom. Yeah, we can zoom. So it's directly a screenshot from what you find in the 2.1. Okay, the colors are a little bit different because, as I told you, we've already kind of worked a little bit on that. But here you can really see the mapping of the various organizations or people. Sometimes it's formal, sometimes it's not formal. You have let's say, the women in male-headed households with some profiles, their age, the control, if they have control of the income, etc. And they may have specific interests or concerns. So that's important to understand that. They may have also barriers to engagement. So as I said, one of the biggest challenges is, of course, the speaking space, which may be limited, but also the domestic constraints from domestic duties to caregiving of the children or of the others. But also they may have challenges when there is some workers, some behavior. They may not feel safe enough to voice them. They may feel ashamed to voice something. So it's important, when it's linked to your project, of course, to have a channel where they can express themselves. Then you have a second category, which is the female-headed households. They tend to be lower income. They tend to be poor. So you have a big question of affordability, of safety, of accessibility of the payment point. And it might be extremely interesting to connect them because for them to have access to electricity can be a life-changing experience, right? So it's really important to have this focus because they may be the poorest of the poorest, okay? Then you have the women who are traders or market vendors. They are generating income. They may have productive use of energy, from phone charging to lighting to preparing yogurt, etc. So it's very interesting to involve them, but you need to be conscious of the timing because maybe they wake up extremely early to go to the market or markets. And sometimes they don't really have a license, so they are not so identified as a stakeholder, but it's important to know they are around. Then one of the aspects is, of course, the youth, between like the young men, the young women, because they may have this desire to work in proper, let's say, jobs with contracts. They may be more at ease with digital tools, but many times they are not consulted because they are not the head of the households. But they can be very interesting partners, right? Because one day they will be customers, they will live home, they will have their family, they will be workers. So it might be interesting to understand them from the beginning. Then you have the older people, the people with disabilities. It's important with them to talk about safety, accessibility, etc. Usually they don't feel that they belong to standard meetings. So it's important to at least knock a few doors to try to understand what is going on with them. Then, of course, the male heads, typically from 30 to 65. So, the father with perhaps family, with perhaps land, etc. They are the default consultation group. So we'll not address them too much, but let's say that they may be the decision makers. Then another interesting group is, of course, the women's group or the associations, we can be your partner to identify the women you should talk to, or to understand where and how to address SEAH, so the sexual harassment challenges. They are often treated as secondary stakeholders, but they can do magic, because they can be very, very effective to reach people with the highest level of priority, such as women. Then, of course, there are the local or religious or traditional leaders. They tend to be men. They are usually quite accessible, and they tend to be the one who really give the green light for operation. But you should not only consult them. All right. Then, of course, the local government authorities. It's important to talk to them, also to kind of understand the processes. But also the workers in construction, they can be male, they can be migrant. It's important to have them in the discussion to really address the challenges with them. All right, so I'm gonna zoom out again. So let's see, you've seen that the sex disaggregation, it's not a colon, it's because it's a way that you have a change in the rows. You may have different situations based on the gender. You cannot say women on the one hand, men on the other hand. You have a variety of situations. The vulnerable and the marginal groups, they may be specific. So it's important that you understand the specific challenges that are they have, and then the influence or the interest, it applies, but it's really important to also see who attends the meeting to get through it.
Marie,
yes.
we have a question in the chat.
Perfect.
From Boris, who is from Anka in Madagascar. And he's asking us, category of stakeholder, do we have to include the investor and DFI as well?
If they are local stakeholders, yes, but in this specific case, no. It's more like the local stakeholders. But if you see that they are funders, local funders, why not? You can add many more lists if you want. It's a document that guides you. Okay. So let's move on. Thank you, Boris. You have you have different ways of engaging people. You can select and, of course, adapt the message and the method to your site context. Because you can have community information meetings, which may be quite broad. Then you may have women-only focus group, which can really facilitate having the female's perspective. And maybe one aspect to protect the women, especially in more, let's say, conservative places, is not to record the name of the woman if they don't want to. It always have to be consent-based. Okay, if someone doesn't want to be recorded, their presence doesn't want to be recorded, just make it happen. Do not record the name. All right. Then, of course, they are what we can call the key informant interviews. They will be the community leaders, the local governments, and also the head of women's associations. It's important to involve them, but do not limit them to male chiefs or formal authority figures. Sometimes it's very informal. Then, of course, you can have a household survey with the gender measure to understand, to ask women and men what they do. Because if it's a man who takes the decision, but a woman who spends most of the time at home, looking after the kids and cooking and doing everything, at the end of the day, she's the one at home. She's the one who will be using the electricity. So it's important to have this kind of understanding of the power dynamics inside the household. All right. Then the participation try to understand where things are placed, where the payment point location are placed, or if, for instance, if you use the mobile phone for payment, if you can have, let's take an example where women will say, I don't want to be doing the payment of the bill, of the electricity bill to a man. I want to have the phone number of a woman to be doing that. Well, that's a very valid concern. And maybe you can have this kind of understanding through some mapping exercise. And also, it may be interesting to have mobile or SMS feedbacks to get an easy way for people to communicate. Let's keep in mind that a method and a message are two different things, because a village meeting reaches some people, but women's cooperative, the youth, the herders, they might need different channels and time. Right? If you see that the community meeting only gathers men, you must ask, where are the women? What are they doing exactly at that moment? It's 2 p.m. here. Where are the women? What are they busy with? Okay. So one little prompt for you, little question for you. Could you name 3 women stakeholders by name and role from one of your recent projects? You can type 1 for yes and 0 for no in chat. Any answer, Geraldine?
No, not yet.
Boris, your hand is still high. Is there anything you would like to share? Otherwise, you can lower your hand. All right. Any more feedback, Geraldine?
No.
Okay. Okay, so
It's maybe a
let's
difficult question.
name 3 women stakeholders by name. If you can't, well, that's exactly what the 2.1 aims to do. All right, then let's move on. So let's take this as an example. It's a fictive situation, of course. We have a mill in Ghana, a 60 kilowatt peak mini grid in northern Ghana. The developer is holding a community meeting at the chief compounds on a Wednesday afternoon with 47 men attend and 2 women. And the chief signs the social agreement. You remember it from before, right? 6 months in, women complained to a local NGO that their maize mill cooperative was never consulted on tariff structure, and therefore they cannot afford daytime productive use connection. What does happen? The connection uptake is 38% below forecast. Can you see the risk here? Like, the risk is that the mini-grid developer has overestimated the participation of this cooperative of women with productive use, and has not consulted them when it was the right time to discuss the tariff structure. So they cannot use this maize meal, this maize meal, and therefore the electricity being used is lower than what was initially planned for. All right. The tool 2.1 could have helped you do things differently. All right. Any comment here, Geraldine? Can you see anything?
No, I don't know if someone here had any experience on that in their projects. Maybe you can share if you have.
Absolutely. If you raise your hand and if you want to speak, you can, of course. All right. Let's move on. I don't see anyone. So the 2.1 would have caught different points. It would have caught that women's voices were absent by default, unless the mapping disaggregated rows, so the women's cooperative, the female-headed households, the women traders, etc. The only doing a general village meeting headcount, well, it didn't deliver, right? So the 2.1 would have seen that the women's voices were absent. The second point is that it would have identified that the method and the timing they matter, and they matter as much as content. And the thing is, the Wednesday afternoon meeting at the chief compound was completely wrong for women in farming cooperative. They were working, they were at the market, they were busy with something else. So what would have been needed is, of course, separate consultation at different times with women facilitators. And what happens? The third point. So we have this 38% uptake gap, which is a revenue loss if it's not only an ESG finding, of course. But what do you have to do? Like, you have to redesign the tariff, as you notice that. And redoing this 6 months in loss, etc., it costs you so much more than designing it from the first month. So you can see that with such a loss, the toolkit would have paid for itself way before the finance would have been closed. Okay, so it would have been like much easier way to flag some challenges. All right. So via 2.1, there are 3 indicators that you can report on quarterly, so every 3 months. And you can do that under 1 hour. It's quite easy. The first will be the engagement events held by quarter, the count and breakdown by group reach, the women's club, the youth, the herders, the mix, etc. 1 line per event. The percentage of women in attendance. It's very, very important that it doesn't go under 30%. It's a red flag. Okay. And third points, the issues raised en route. You can count of the kind of substantive issues raised during this event. Beware, it's technical, and you can report them to the grievance and redress mechanism. Okay? You don't need a proper ESG report, but you can really continue monitoring these points. Okay, so let's move on to gender action. Geraldine, after the gender action, we have a break, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And
so
maybe just to add, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to open your micro and contribute.
Absolutely.
It's not only by chat if you want.
Absolutely. Please ask questions. We are here to answer you.
And also like last time, if you want to ask in French, it's okay. We can just translate it. Yes, translate the question and the answer in English. Yes.
Absolument. En français ou en anglais, il n'y a pas de problème.
We are better in French than in English, so no, don't hesitate.
Absolutely. We can switch from one language to another and we can translate for you, so no problem. And I hope the subtitles are useful. All right. So the gender action. So the gender action plan is number 2.3. We've already covered a lot of the, let's say, concerns, but now we move from, let's say, the mapping to the plan. Because, as you know, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And we want things to happen. We want women on board. Ideally, half women, but sometimes it's a little bit more complicated than that. So this toolkit is about the budget, and it's about turning the commitments into named responsibilities, into fixed timelines, and also about cost estimated actions that can really survive procurement and construction. All right? So this tool covers the gender baseline, the entry point, also the targets and the monitoring, etc. So the 5 entry points are related to the workforce, the recruitment, the retention, the supervisory roles, the supply chain, the women-owned supplier or the vendor diversity. Then, of course, the customer base, the connection, the productive use uptake. Also the productive use programs, the appliances, the training, the finance, and then the community engagement, the voice, the decision-making, the access to grievance and redress mechanisms. So you can make through resource 3, a very rapid assessment of where you are at the moment, like how many women and men are in the community. What is the proportion of female-headed households? What are the main income sources? What energy service do women use? What are the main barriers for women to attend community meetings? Are there women in this community who face compound disadvantage, such as disability, age, being a female-headed household, or in extreme poverty, etc.? So it's important to identify that it's not homogeneous. Also flag, someone is speaking, I can't hear. Identify where the women's group are, the community are, etc. If women have access to phones or mobile money, etc. If there are specific risks, if there are, on the other hand, women working in technical or operational roles, that is already quite, that can be quite interesting. And also try to understand the income generating activities that could be enabled, how much money they have, and also try to understand if the supply chain involves significant female labor at production or assembly, because that could be linked to unsafe working conditions, and that would be addressed in another toolkit. I must apologize to you all because the numbers of the tool are not numbered so well. We need to consolidate that in the very final round. So here, for instance, I can see that the supply chain screening is 2.4, which is correct, but there was another link that was not correct earlier. So anyway, yeah, you will have access to the very final version soon. Okay, so if you do nothing else, you must complete the gender diagnostic that I shared with you earlier. And also try to document the 3 inputs, the baseline data, the risk register, and also the opportunities. Then you must complete the action table with at least 1 action for each pillar and phase, and assign a budget. Also name a gender-based violence or sexual harassment and abuse prevention partner, and confirm they can be engaged before construction begins, and name the gender focal point and confirm the annual review date.
Rahim, there
yes.
is a question from someone, Mr.
Yes, please.
It's Tembani.
Yes.
Hi, Tembani.
From South Africa. Hi. I just want to clarify something. If you doing this by the tool and you find that the gender disparity in the community is accepted by those who live in it, the inclusion of women is minimal, but it's acceptable to the community. Yes, it might not be acceptable to the tool, but to the community that's accepted. And you have other negative factors that the tool says you must do this, but the community is accepting their own consequences. Do you then abandon, or do you still continue and try and work it with those negative aspects? Because then it ticks a negative aspect in your tool.
Yeah, I understand it. So the question is if the community accepts that women are underrepresented. The thing is, the feedback is not for the community. It's for international donors. They want to see that there is an intention. They want to see that that efforts are being made towards women. And it's not because it's accepted on the surface that it is completely accepted by the women in this group. So that's why it's very important to also try to organize some women-only focus group, because maybe they are not like in the community, maybe there are absolutely no women who is using electricity for work or cooking, etc. Maybe absolutely no. But I doubt it is, because sometimes the women will be maybe not using the electricity produced for productive use, but maybe they will be using it at home, and so it's important that they still express how they want to use it and how they plan to use it. So, at least try to hold this kind of meetings with the women from the community and understand, but and try to understand what they aspire to. Okay. And through these meetings, you have like sufficient evidence that 50 for 50 let's say base load is not possible, but at least you have the evidence, and that's what the donors or investors want you to flag. Is it clear enough, Timbani?
Yes, partly, but I think we can discuss it later.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe to add something on that, it's not about trying to change the role and the status of women in the village. It's not about that. There is no intention to do that, but just to acknowledge that the role and status of men and women are different, maybe different, and that if we have not a proper attention to the woman, then we will not take it into account in the project.
Exactly. It's really not about trying to impose a different viewpoint on how women and men should behave. It's really about trying to understand what their priorities are in order to tailor the project closer to their needs. Okay? All right.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yes, we can come back to that later if it's not okay.
All right. Okay. One of yeah, so if I have a question for you, if you have ever set a measurable target on women's employment, on women's connections, or women in supervisory roles. Because sometimes, in project, you will have a good requirement to have more women, or certain countries, certain situations have this kind of objectives. But maybe you didn't know where and how to start. So is there any answer in the chat? Have you ever set a measurable target on women's employment, women's connections, or women in supervisory role? Can you see anything in the chat, Geraldine?
Not yet. Maybe we have to wait a bit. No targets for now. From Boris in Madagascar. Mr. Tembani said yes.
All right. All right. Now that goes back to Timbani question. So you have a mini grid operator with 18 staff, which applies for AfDB financing. Of course, the 2.3, it requires gap. It's really one of the requirements of all. But the developer pushes back and say, we cannot hire more women. The local labor pool is mostly men. Women don't want to work in this mini grid. Our customers' connection are household level, so we can't target gender. It isn't practical for its side. How would we respond using 2.3? There would be 2 non-employment entry points and 1 concrete quarter 1 action for each. Do you want to see the answers? All right. So, of course, GAP, it's an action plan and not a quota. It's about the action. It's about the intention. Okay. The workforce, it's the hardest point because if you look into productive use programs or customer connections or supply chain and community engagement, it's usually easier than really having more women working on site, etc. So it's important to highlight what the wins are. So to come back to Timbani's question, maybe you don't want to address women specifically as workers because in that community, women, it's not fathomable that women would work in such a community, all right? But maybe you can focus on them as... excuse me? I think someone needs to be mute. So yeah, maybe you can focus on the small customer connection, or maybe on how women will use electricity for productive use. Again, to produce yogurt, to put things in a fridge, or other, maybe as nurses, etc. Okay, then the ambition needs to be proportional, because 3 credible actions tracked quarterly really, really beat 10 aspirational and impossible ones. And, our colleagues at AfDB and IFC, they can tell the difference. And so can your team. You can start small. There's no problem in being small. It's perfectly fine to say this is not doable in that community, but at least you have the testimony from the community. You don't assume from the start. Okay. And then the gender action plan really feeds everything else. It fills your mapping rows for the first tool. it fields the one on women accessible channels on the grievance mechanisms, and also your monitoring report. So use them. It's like half of the job that is done. Something that this tool will help you do is to flag very fast the number of women in the workforce and in supervisory role, because it's a question of kind of leadership, because it's about the movement. Try to understand if some women are moving from a more like technical position to a managerial role. It's very interesting and shows some trends. Again, there's no judgment here. It's something that may happen, that needs to be reported because it may be interesting. Then it's also about the number of women among the new customer connection, or especially if they are if women are connection holder, or if you see that it's more about the size of the family. And then you can make 3 to 5 committed actions from your gap, 1 traffic light per action. And again, honest is always the best. Okay? You don't need to make a standalone report needed like at every quarter, but have these numbers in mind. Track everything. So let's do a little break as requested, and then we will move on to indigenous people. Geraldine, I let you coordinate this little break because I think you wanted us to make a group picture. So
Yes.
I might stop sharing the video and ask everyone to put their video on.
Yes, because the ARE was suggesting to have a group photo with the capacity building session. If everybody can turn on his camera. Great. That's nice for us to see you.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Yes, we have some of them not in the same screen. We are so numerous. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So, Okan, how do you want to do the picture? The group picture?
Screenshots, maybe?
I'll do some screenshots. I don't know how ARE wanted to do that, but oh. So how much time for the break, Marin? 10 minutes?
Yes.
What can we say? Yes, 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
So we'll begin at before 3?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, welcome back. Geraldine, I don't see you yet. And if you want to keep your camera on, please do so. It's always so much nicer to see you all. And please, whenever you have a question, introduce yourself and your affiliation, your country, etc. It's so valuable for us to know who you are, what you do, and at what stage you are currently. So it's yeah. Please join the conversation and let us know who you are and what you do. Geraldine, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay.
I don't see any camera on, but as Marine said, we would be really happy to see you.
Exactly.
If it's possible with your connection. Thank you,
Voilà.
Sylvestre.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to ask a question in French, c'est pas un problème. Posez-nous vos questions en français. We will share it with the rest of the group. On va les partager avec le reste du groupe en traduisant. Voilà. Très bien. Bonjour Joseph. C'est très bien de vous voir. Merci. Merci d'avoir mis votre caméra. Thank you so much for putting your camera on. All right. Nestor, Damas, it's great to see you with your camera on. Thank you so much. All right, so let's move on. I will be quite quick on this part on indigenous people. I know that from the previous meetings with my colleagues, Gila and Viviane, you asked for a little bit more information on how to engage with indigenous people. The thing is, the indigenous people dimension is quite tricky. In theory, when we talk about the kind of mini-grid we're in, the presence of indigenous people should not really be identified, because that means that you move from the most simple category, which is category C, to another more complex category. But I will help you kind of see where and how to act. And also listening to your feedback, I've also completed the 2.1 toolkit to include some kind of screening and action for indigenous people. But again, that is quite, let's say, a first step, because you would need to have a proper consultant and facilitators to help you with that. I could see a hand up. I think it was from Joseph or Joseph. If you want to ask a question and perhaps state who you are. No, it was a mistake, maybe. All right. All right. So the particularity of the, let's say, indigenous people is that doesn't really necessarily match the national legal recognition. It's not the test. You need to go a little deeper. You need to see if there is a self-identification as a indigenous population. You must assess if there is some kind of collective attachment to ancestral land or resources, or customary institutions distinct from the dominant society, or maybe one or several indigenous languages different from the national one. So it can be like a minority is recognized minority is different from an indigenous group. But let's say that the indigenous people's plan, it's really something specific that usually requires more granular work with external advice. The thing is, The challenge is, of course, to get the consent, and so that's why there is this a very very terrible acronym that is FPIC, which corresponds to form consent ahead of the consultation. Of the project start. And in practice, it is about giving the consent of the community on their own timeline, not yours. They are on the driving seat. It must be iterative, so reconfirm at each major project decision and document it. Again, it's always about documentation. It is not, and that's why I will repeat it, it's not a one-off signature on a community consent form. It's not a consultation, because that would be a lower standard used in other contexts. And it's not veto power on the project as a whole. It really applies to specific decisions. So it's really about making sure that the voice of the indigenous population is being listened to as some kind of a protected category as such, right? So there is some kind of an escalation loop, which is about the screening, the tool that you saw last week, about the kind of triggering, and you really must assess whether there is this presence of indigenous population. Then you must trigger and see if there is specific consultation. I mean, if there is no, you ditch that, of course, but take the time to screen, okay? Take the time to consult, take the time to document, and take the time to prepare a plan only when it's very, 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 very identified, specific, and something, you know, that that touches indigenous people, indigenous lands, etc. But overall, let's say the rule of thumb is to avoid building the site on IP lands or affect the indigenous population even more than what they are. Rin, please.
Yes, you are not sharing your screen, Marine.
No, I'm not sharing my screen.
So what
Yes.
Oh, I'm really sorry for that. I thought I was. I'm really sorry for that. Okay. Can you see it now? Sorry.
Yes, okay.
Because I was on full screen on my side, but not on yours. Okay. So I'm going to add my subtitles here. So now you see what I was talking about. It's about the OS Operational Safeguard 7 and 1. And what the FPIC is and what it's not. So it's more than let's say just a consent form. And this is the escalation route I was mentioning. And now it's so you see that it's from screening to triggering to consulting to document and to plan. And then here you can see that I have a question for you. It's if your project site or idea overlaps with land used by indigenous peoples, pastoralist communities, or groups not formally recognized by national law. Just assess that if you don't know, it's a legitimate answer, because it may need that there are things in the community that you don't know. And as I said earlier, the goal at the end of the day is not to let's say to mobilize everyone if you cannot, but understand really from the bottom up who this infrastructure project is affecting, right? So that's why it's so important to kind of flag if there is a risk of having indigenous peoples or lands on site. Okay, if you want, you can answer to the question, but I will move on. Apologies again for not sharing my screen. So let's see here, we have a little example of, again, a fictive example of a community in central Kenya, a pastoralist grazing route. So you have a mini-grid site in Kenya. It falls on the edge of an ancestral grazing route used by a pastoralist community. The thing is, the community is not formally designated as an indigenous under Kenyan law. Yet, AfDB OS 1 requires planning if the criteria are met. So your AfDB officer asks for evidence that the screening was done. So what is the first thing the developer must do? Here, the first do is screening. Okay? All right. Any question, anything? Because the follow-up point is G or M, which may be interesting. All right. So now let's move on to the grievance and redress. So the grievance and redress mechanisms, it's not a compliance exercise or a box to tick. It's the earliest warning system that a developer has, really the first place where you can spot the community tension, the worker mistreatment, or the safety failures. So use it as if someone voices some concerns, for instance, the quality of the electricity is not good enough, or it's going to affect a place or another too much. It's really, really important to really collect this data, because it feeds you with direct feedback. Sometimes they can be harsh, they can be very negative, they can be even insulting. But that's exactly. Yeah.
Why
Someone?
did they bring his clothes?
Geraldine, is there someone answering?
No, I think there's a micro that is open.
When you brought it, you now put it at the corner that you put it.
I think it's Francis.
Where?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that was exactly this kind of concern that I had, some extremely aggressive person on the phone, and that was keep on harassing me, and I must apologize for answering to that thing automatically. Okay, so the idea of the grievance redress mechanism, it's really that you collect the fact that people voice concerns are a tool for you to kind of grow and to kind of assess what the temperature is on the ground. So it has principles, 6 main principles, one on accessibility, with the multiple channels, with the low literacy, with the women accessible challenges, let's say accessible possibility. It has to be independent. It's important that the person who handles the complaints is not the one, who may be responsible for the complaint itself. So there's a kind of work to do so that the team understands that it's nothing really personal, but that the complaint may mean something kind of more systematically. Then it's about the confidentiality. It's extremely important that everything remains confidential. Okay, I'm trying to see you and to see my screen at the same time, which is very complicated. Can you see me?
Your screen.
You lost my screen again.
Yes.
Again, you lost my screen. So you see, that's exactly the kind of complaint that you can formulate. You're losing the track of what should it be about. Okay, can you see me again?
Yes.
Can you see the screen again? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, sorry for that. So the principles are, again, accessibility, independence, confidentiality, non-retaliation. It's very, very important that people feel safe, that the complaint will not be used against them. It has to be predictable, so also in terms of timelines, of acknowledgement, on resolution as well, and transparent. If you receive complaints, keep track of them and report on them as well. What were the complaints about? Was it because the tariff was too high? That's extremely interesting because that may be if one person says the tariff is too high, that's something. But if many people say the same thing, well, that should alert you that something should be done. Okay? So that's the first page with the 6 design principles. Then there is a specific protocol for women accessible channels. Why? Because women may not feel safe enough to voice their concerns, and on the contrary, having women organizations as partner to help you would make a world of difference. And what does that mean in practice? It means that you may need to have a channel with a woman on the phone, like somewhere where a woman can call and receive an answer from another woman. And that this complaint phone number is available, or the location is available to women, not specifically to the village average, and also that it's confidential by this default. Especially because this kind of hotlines, they may be extremely important to flag at the very early stage the risk of sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, SEAH. Okay, so it's important that you don't assume that everything goes perfectly well in the community, but that you make sure that women can turn to someone and express their concern to someone. It can be a partner organization, it can be a member of your staff, but that there is this kind of dedicated channel for women. Okay. So what does it change to have this kind of specific sexual exploitation and harassment channel? The thing is, SEAH, sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, are completely prohibited. It's not a risk category. So in practice, it means that you must also see that that there is a specific dedicated hotline. It doesn't go to the line supervisor or something, because maybe the person who is committing this crime is the line supervisor. It has to be about someone who understands what it's about. Then it's about the needs and the concerns of the survivor. The confidentiality must happen by default. There shouldn't be investigation without the proper consent. And it's extremely important that it's tied to safety and referral before any internal process. And then, of course, it's extremely important that if a female colleague, even if she's the cleaner or someone who is like kind of overlooked or just a temporary worker, etc., she must be safe. And the HR policy must be clear that there will be no retaliation against this woman. You must believe the woman first. Okay? It's let's say the sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment concerns. They are kind of cross operational standards, right? But the intake design, it lives completely here. Any question about this? Okay. So now it's a question for you. If on a project you work on, when was the last time a community member made a formal complaint to your project? Was it last week? Was it last month? Was it last quarter? Or you don't remember? Why am I asking this question? Because if you see the complaints as some kind of a thermometer of how the community is doing, and you see that no one is complaining, it means that people may not be, it's not normal actually not to complain. People always have concerns. But if they do not complain, maybe it means that they do not trust that you will be able to solve or improve the situation for them. So a grievance and redress mechanism that hears no complaints, it's actually a sign that that it's not delivering for the people. It doesn't mean that the project is peaceful. It just means that the system is not tailored to the needs of the community. Any question?
There is a contribution last quarter from Mr. Tembani.
Wonderful. Can you read it? Otherwise, I risk losing you again. I'm sorry.
He's only answering your question.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Tembani.
Yes.
Oh, no, I thought you meant I should elaborate.
Oh, if you want
yes,
to,
please.
that would be amazing.
Oh, okay. I think with this, it was the fact that we had meetings before we started the project, and we included youth, we included unemployed, and we included women in the project as we started. But along the way, there are some youth groups that really started feeling like when we had the engagements, certain parts of the village were not included in the invite. So they came from a point of view of saying they were not part of that. So the community members then came where the project was happening at construction and started complaining of the fact that it wasn't inclusive. I mean, yeah, and that was a hell of a 2-day conversation.
Yeah, but what was the outcome of these 2 days? Was it positive or was it or negative? Like
It was
Yeah.
it was positive. What we eventually had to do was speak to the client and added more people, even though we didn't need them into the project from those sections that felt like they were excluded in the conversation.
So that's that's exactly it. Like the importance of disagreeing to see that the other may have something to say that you are not able to see, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it happens at the very early stage because you have this community meetings, just as the one I described in the first part of this conversation. But sometimes it comes later as a grievance process. But now imagine the same situation when, on the other hand, you would have dismissed this kind of concerns. What would have happened? The community would have been like, maybe they just want our money. They do not want to work for us. Let's find something else. Let's find some alternative solutions, right? So that would have broken the trust, and that would have had some consequences on the community itself, on the business itself, on the mini grid itself. Because if they don't trust you, if they don't trust the mini grid, why should they first pay for it? Or second, why should they keep it? Like maybe they would have vandalized it or something. So, it has costs, it has consequences. But listening, really taking the time to listen to this kind of input, even if you would like things to be better. You do not want to hear negative feedback, right? That's normal. That's perfectly human. But acknowledging them is really the first step for building trust.
And Marine, there is a question from Boris.
Yes, Boris?
Should the GRM also cover service-related complaints, such as outages, brief power interruptions, and other operational issues? Boris, if you want to complete the questions, you can unmute your micro and speak yourself if you want.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I just want to know if these kind of complaints, service-related complaints, are considered into the GRM, and also the tariffs and this kind of service-related complaints than E&S complaints.
Yes, absolutely. That's a perfect place to put them, because you shouldn't multiply the tools, right? So in practice, if you have a system that works with also specific let's say women-centered hotlines, that would be very, very good to have something let's say integrated, because sometimes you don't know how to do the difference between the complaints at first. Maybe that can be about, oh yeah, my neighbor has more electricity, and then you understand that it's not about the neighbor having more electricity, but because of an unstable grid at exactly that point. So, maybe it's a grid issue, and, not only complaints between neighbors, right? So if you take them as really, again, as symptoms of something that can be of very different nature, that can be extremely useful.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Okay, so here I have a mini case, but I think we may skip it since we had already two very interesting feedback. That would have been a call to a cousin who is absolutely not responsible for anything, and AfDB who finds out that the mini-grid developer hasn't been acting on the challenges. So that would have been an example. So in practice, silence, it is a signal. It is a signal that people don't trust the channel, cannot reach it, or fear retaliation. So overall, there is no trust. So it's important that you take the time to kind of investigate the silence as carefully as you would a complaint. Like, why are everybody happy? Of course, the first couple of months, everybody is happy. It's the honeymoon. But then there might be things a little bit more that may arrive, and you need to encourage people to use these routes. The independence and the confidentiality must be really structural. It's not about ticking the box. It's about making sure that people can know where to voice their complaints and how. So you must root the rules, the personal, and the case studies, and so that a complainant cannot be punished by the person they're complaining about. If, for instance, there is a complaint about an agent or technician, which let's take something, again, imagine something that would steal in people's home. people must feel safe enough that this person who steals will not come back and try to destroy even more the house, right? So you need to have like proper segmentation so that people feel safe enough. And then women access need a dedicated channel. Something you can test it with other women. You can use a women's organization, but make sure that there is a specific channels for women, because women and men do not complain the same way and not necessarily about the same things. Okay? So this is what you can report on, the number of complaints received by channel. Also very, very, very specifically about SEAH, so the sexual exploitation and harassment, abuse and harassment. But also you need to monitor the kind of time to acknowledge and time to resolve. Also try to understand what percentage of the complainants were women. Because if it's below the women-men ratio, it means that the women channel is not working. And then you need to be extremely strict on the sexual exploitation and harassment, abuse and harassment cases. Okay. And it is for you a monitoring data. Okay, it is something you can use, and that will feed the exploitation of your mini grid project. Voilà. Any question on GRM? Otherwise, let's move to anti-bribery and corruption, ABC. No? All right. So, anti-bribery and corruption. So there is a dedicated toolkit, which is really about trying to understand the difference between the, let's say, the basics, the gifts and the corruption, the facilitation payment, the protection of whistleblowers, and of conflicts of interest. So in practice, bribery, it is a criminal conduct that exposes the developer, their investors, and their lenders to legal liability. So it's extremely, 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 you need to be extremely careful with that. So the document aims to make clear what is prohibited, how to recognize risk before it materializes, and what to do when it does. Okay? So in practice, here it's a screenshot from page 7 about the difference between, what is a gift or what is corruption. So if it's something that is documented, that is modest, that is mutual, usually a gift, that's okay. If someone offers you a cup of tea when you visit their home for a visit, that's perfectly fine, right? It's you may not need approval for something, but it doesn't have to be tied to a decision or a contract. Okay. If it's a meal or participating in an event or something, that it depends, because if it's a simple meal, it's fine. But if it's inviting you to, I don't know, the daughter or the son's wedding when you have never heard of these people and you are kind of expected to make a big gift, or on the other hand, they will be making a big gift to you, well, that might be a bit odd. So, you know, here you need to have the kind of your antenna quite high to see, is it odd or is it regular? Then if it's let's say through a community benefit agreement, if it's something that the whole community will benefit, in that case, it's perfectly legitimate. But if it's tied to being a condition of doing your job, that becomes corruption. If it's a gift to a public official, that might be a challenge. So, for instance, if you receive something if you receive something extravagant, or if you receive money, if you receive something and the person in front of you tells you, please don't say it to anyone ever again, don't mention it, and I will remember that I gave that to you, you need to be careful, okay? And you need to report it, of course. So the main question is, what would be bribery and let's say the line. So this is for like more of for you to comment and try to analyze the situation. So anti-bribery and corruption, ABC. So a village chief asks for a community development contribution to authorize your land use. Is it corruption or legitimate community benefit? In this case, if it's making a big present or build a house just for him, that would be corruption. If it's building a school, that would be community benefit. Okay? You see the difference? Then about the facilitation payment. So a customs official decide that they will not release your inverters from port without a small unofficial processing fee when your project is already behind schedule. Where is the line? Is it corruption or is it legitimate community benefit? Does anyone want to discuss this? I know that it's not always clear to see the difference, and that in some places bribery is part of the doing the business. The thing is, that's not acceptable under the IFC and AfDB rules. Again, no judgment here. That's just I'm just explaining the rules. Okay. Anyone wants to comment? No? Okay. Fine. So in this specific case with the custom official, that would be bribery, because that would be about preventing, blocking everything, because unless you bribe them, right? So that wouldn't be acceptable. So let's say that the anti-bribery and corruption is structural. It has to be written in policy. It has to be visible in channel. It has to be visible in the leadership. It's not about catching the individual. It's about making a system where you understand that it's not possible. It's not something that you do. The payment of facilitation are still bribes, and it's not because it's small and routine that it is legal. Okay? And again, a gift becomes corruption when it's demanded, when it's hidden, or when it benefits only one individual or one official. And the test is intent, not the amount. Okay? So what you need to monitor is if there is some kind of a whistleblower channel, focus on that. Then if like the conflict of interest, you need to monitor that as well. Also log the facilitation payment incident. And also register the gift. Like if your employees receive a gift on a regular basis, are they are they able to share it with the rest of the colleagues, etc.? It's something like it's on the process as well. Okay. Any question?
Yes, there is one in the chat. Zuhumred, do you want to speak about it? I read it to you, Marine. In working with some African governments, this has cost some organizations, speaking from past experience. From Nigeria, Progen.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's again, I think it's a very delicate issue. So that's why you need to also, if you want to use AfDB or IFC related funding, you need to apply these rules. And that needs to be embedded in the DNA of your organization, right? I know it's like life is way more complex, of course, than all of this, but that's extremely important that you are transparent towards AFC and AfDB about these potential concerns. Okay, because it is not acceptable against this kind of international standards. And yeah, if that prevents you from doing your job, well, that's also an enormous concern that you need to also flag, right? But that doesn't mean that you need to accept or give the money away.
Karen, do you want to tell us your contribution you have written in the chat?
Yeah, I can do it. It's just a case of looking at employing people who are dealing with local communities. Your stakeholder engagement or your community liaison people are in a very privileged position with regard to local communities. And I have come across...
Sorry, my network is bad. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, I'll slow down. In practice, when you have somebody who is dealing on a day-to-day basis with local villages, local communities, representing the company, and we can call that a community liaison officer or a stakeholder engagement officer, they are in a very privileged position with regard to the relationship with villages. And I have come across cases in the past where that person is corrupt. They have required payments from villagers, from local communities, in order to report complaints or grievances. So it's I think the message is to be very vigilant.
Yeah.
You can have a good grievance mechanism, you can have a good complaints mechanism, but many times villagers don't engage with that anyway. They don't really understand it if it's not correctly presented to them, or presented to them in a way. If it's in written form, a lot of villagers can't, they're not going to read it. So they need to understand it. That community liaison officer or stakeholder engagement officer will be the person to take that mechanism to the communities. And it's very tempting for them to demand a small payment every time they take a complaint back into the organization. So just be vigilant. There has to be a mechanism somewhere in your organization to make sure that's not happening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the testimony, Karen, because it's really about the vigilance and about trying to understand that we are all work in progress. And it's not only about the technical work of putting the wires and the connection, etc., but it's also the human the human work that is in progress.
Exactly. Thanks.
Yeah. And it's, I've talked about gender, about grievance redress and mechanism, but that also applies between colleagues, right? It's very important that colleagues can report each other. In this case, we usually call it whistleblowing, especially if it's about some kind of shady practices. But that is really, really important that the kind of that people along all the value chain feel safe enough to do things with integrity. Right. Okay, so let's move on to forced labor and child labor, 2.5. So this tool is about prevention, detection, and responses across operation and supply chain. So it's about the employers' pay principle and also the recruitment rules, and 11 ILO, International Labour Organization indicators, and also about the kind of screening along the supply chain and some checks among the children. Because I think everything is related to what we shared earlier, but it's about the kind of principles, like the prevention and the detection of risk. Because again, the risk that we flag are not necessarily visible, are not necessarily under the broad daylight. Right? But you need to have the ability, the tools are here to help you develop this ability to detect things. So here on this page, you can see the 11 ILO indicators. One is the abuse of vulnerability of a community, the deception, the false promises, the restriction of movement, the isolation, the physical and sexual violence, the intimidation and threats, the retention of identity documents, the withholdings of wages, the debt bondage, the abusive working and living conditions, and of course, the excessive overtime. So in a nutshell, the first thing is that no worker pays for a job. The recruitment fees and the cost are borne by the employee. No one can tell you, I want to pay to work for your company. No. Or you must pay to work for me. No, that doesn't work this way. The second point is that there should not be document retentions, for instance, identity cards or passports, etc. The wages, the movement are never withheld to bind labor. Okay. If you spot this kind of indicators, one of the 11 indicators, it's already big. But if you see several together, that makes a very strong case against very, 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 very dangerous and criminal practices. And again, keep the paper trail, even if the detection relies on confidential conversations and not on signed declaration. But it's having, again, your antenna very high to check where things are happening. And on the child labor aid checks, many countries have, of course, prohibited the work of children. But let's say that overall, you should not have children work, and especially children under 18 should not do hazardous and dangerous works. Okay. Okay. So this kind of line, it also applies to your supply chain. Especially when it's direct, in the direct supply agreement. So it's exactly the same as what would apply to you, to your company. Then for the distributors, you need to again flag or request origin attestation, the document. You can refuse the document when if something is or if they refuse to provide you with the certificates, etc., that may be a flag. And then when it's about the purchase of things, that's more like the ABC anti-bribery and corruption that applies, and it's about due diligence and but not really the level of supply chain challenge. Okay. So this is, again, a theoretical case. Something that happens way more often than we think is that some workers pay the fee to get their job. Like they paid the recruiter. Well, it might be something, especially if you're not the one in charge of recruiting, maybe it's time to ask, right? If anyone has ever paid, even an intermediary, if someone has never paid, of course, if anyone has ever checked, that's quite interesting to have this idea. Again, it's about monitoring, trying to understand, trying to overcome these limits, because forced labor is not acceptable. AfDB and EFC standards are extremely clear about that. Okay. Any example, any case, any situation when you have spotted anything? No? Okay. Even in the chat, huh? Don't worry. Okay, right. So let's get to a virtual case. So your EPC contractor mobilizes a 40% construction crew through a labor broker. Several workers disclose they each paid the broker's 2 months' wage to be hired, and that the broker holds their identity card until the debt is cleared. So what happens? This is called debt bondage and document retention, and that is 2 of the 11 ILO indicators that are flagging forced labor. Under your AfDB loan, it becomes OS2 finding, and since it's an EPC contract, it makes it your responsibility. And if it's your responsibility, you have a problem. Okay. So what you need to report on the tool number 2.5 quarterly is the workforce profile, and if there is any kind of recruitment fee, headcount by employer, developer, EPC, subcontractor, etc., and the confirmation that the pre-mobilization fee checks were done. Any fee found triggers reimbursement. So it's like a big, big, big warning. Then you need to screen the 11 ILO indicators. With for instance, the date of the last worker interview round, and any indicator flagged. And it's important to keep in mind that a score of 0 with no interviews done, it's not a clean result. You need to ask the workers. Then on the supply chain coverage, it's about the scope of procurement. So you need the origin or the attestation and file. If there is a refusal of the document, there can be an escalation of the process. And then you need to record the age verification for all direct and contracted workers. And make sure that you don't have any under 18 working on dangerous sites, and respect the national law. Okay? So keep the recruitment checks, keep doing interview, even informally, and also keep the attestations live in your human resources and procurement files. Okay? That will be asked by AFD and IFC. Okay? So, any question? Anything, any clarification? No? Okay. So, little exercise for you. Little exercise for you. It would be to type 2 actions in chat that you will take in the next 30 days, run from at least 2 of the 4 tools. They can be, for instance, add a 6 disaggregated row to my stakeholder map, or audit my grievance and redress mechanism register for routing conflicts of interest. Would you like anyone would like to share that something they note down and would like to implement in the coming 30 days or more? I'm really keen to hear from you. Also to, yes, faculty 9276, please.
So is Hughes Dimka, Hopewell Solution Services. We are actually, as everybody said, we're currently trying to roll out 4,000 connections here in Nigeria. One of the things I'm definitely going to take out right now, and it's something we are taught was on our GRM register. We had thought that we would have our staff on site to be able to manage that, and because we felt they are closer to the community. But from your training and what I've gotten now, it has become pretty obvious from us that for the grievance redress mechanism, we should give the communities a phone number, and we should have a team here in our head office that will be able to manage that and probably route it to the community, to our team on ground in the community.
Yeah, that's an excellent thing to have a dedicated phone line for the grievance mechanism. And if I may, I would also encourage you to have a phone number with the man who answers and another phone number for women to answer.
Super. I'll add that as well. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Anybody else wanted to share? We just had an example from Nigeria, an organization that really got that we need to have community ownership of the grievance redress mechanism, and it doesn't need to be complicated. It can be a phone number, it can be a WhatsApp number, it can be something, but it has to be easy access and tailored to the need of the community. And of course, if it's a community that never uses phone and prefers to, I don't know, talk to other people up front, that should be decided this way. Anybody else? Geraldine, Karen, Rin, would you like to comment or add something? Okay, I know it's been quite long, so I also understand that you may be quite tired, but I would be very, very keen to have a follow-up with you all to understand if there is anything you would like to, any action you would like to implement in the future. Right. And it would be good also to have you rate yourself on the confidence question from the very beginning. And in any case, tomorrow you will be with our colleagues on land, biodiversity and culture, heritage and waste. So now you're able to locate the 5 tools, identify risk, people risk specific to mini-grids, apply each tool depending on the size or the type of risk, recognize where each tool reduce business risk, and if you can, commit to 2 or 3 actions. So today we covered the labor, the sexual exploitation, abuse and harassment, the community safety, the indigenous populations, the stakeholder engagement plan, the issues related to gender, to grievance, to anti-bravery, and forced and child labor. And the next module, we will be looking into land, biodiversity, cultural heritage, resource efficiency, pollution, e-waste, and so on. And the last module will be about turning tools into a functioning ESMS, with also looking at the human resources and organizational arrangements, and also about reporting to lenders. So before we leave, if you can rate your confidence from 1 to 5, tell us how useful you found the proposed approach. Name one reason why the people risk matter, and has if today's session changed your perception. And yeah, some suggestion as well. We take your feedback as tools to grow. It's exactly like the GRM, the grievance and redress mechanism. Like feedback, any feedback is good to have. And if you have questions, if you refrained from asking any question, please do it now as well. I'm gonna stop with the full screen so that I can see you and see the chat. I don't want this. Okay. Inclusivity and community ownership, rating 5. Thank you, Dr. Farah Nassani. So you feel better. That's great. Thank you, Damas. I understand. Yes, that's why I flag it. And, you know, it's important to that at least on your side, faculty 9276, I'm really sorry I couldn't hear your name properly, but I know that you are from Nigeria. I could really, I hear it, right? That this tool is about the kind of standards and what is acceptable at a international level. So that's, of course, challenging. But if you on your side are being transparent, this is what is necessary to do to receive some fundings, right? If anybody wants to share their experience or example, or by the way, if you want to reach out to me or to Geraldine afterwards, we are, of course, very happy to do that. I don't think our emails is being shared with Geraldine.
I don't know, but we can write it in the chat.
Yeah, and also just a reminder that an Excel comment matrix have been shared with the tools to all the participants. So if you have any comments on the tools or even questions, you can include them in that Excel file too. That would work as well.
And I see the answer from Boris. And of course, I wanted to say that, yes, our tools are aimed to be really tools to be adapted to the local context. So there is no rule that applies everywhere, but it's like flags and tips and advices to help you to adapt it to your context.
Yeah, and also help you understand what is required by international donors, right? And as it was flagged earlier, sometimes it's difficult with the anti-bribery because it's considered normal in the place where you are. Again, no judgment here from my side, but it's something that, according to international standards, can be extremely tricky, and that's why you need to pay attention to that. And yes, the question, if you want to ask them in French, or if you want any follow-up in French, that's also possible. And if you have any comment on the tool or something that you find absolutely unrealistic, that's also important for us to have this kind of feedback, right?
And maybe another question, did you have time to go through the toolkits already?
Oh, thank you, Timony.
Great. So if you have feedback on it, don't hesitate to write to us. Okay. Land acquisition.
Mm-mm.
The next one.
Won't exactly. It won't be us. It will be our colleagues. But we are, of course, sharing this feedback with them. They will insist on this point. And again, thank you for formulating also recommendations for what this session should have covers. I hope that it was good enough. Yeah. These tools and these trainings are made to help you. We are learning also with you what your priorities are. And in any case, thank you so much for being part of this conversation and taking the time, because I know it's been very long. Okay. Well, if
Okay.
you, yeah, Geraldine, I'll leave you with the final words if you want.
No,
Maybe
I
your
think it's okay.
takeaways.
I will have a deep look on how can we can apply all these tools in Madagascar. Okay, I think yes. Thank you, everybody. Okay, another feedback there from Bruno. E-waste. E-waste is very important, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have the case of reinstallation issues? Because if some of you had some case to share for the next session regarding reinstallation or land acquisition or anything, or e-waste, it will be very useful for us, for you to prepare something with the other participants tomorrow. So if you think about specific cases or specific questions you have regarding that, please prepare it for tomorrow so that you can share. And maybe Ghislain will have some answer for you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Ok. Je pense qu'on peut clôturer.
Oui.
Eh bien, merci.
J'espère que toi aussi, tu as appris des choses.
Oui. Des sujets compliqués, hein, notamment sur la corruption, là, c'est vraiment très compliqué.
Ouais. Puis dans certains endroits, c'est la réalité, quoi.
Oscan, you can close the meeting, I think, because we cannot do that from our side. Are you still there? Hello?
Maybe we can just quit and then
Yeah.
after we'll, yes. Okay. À tout de suite.
À tout